All right, everyone. Hello and welcome to It's Kind of a Funny Podcast. Today I am by myself. Philip Duke by himself. But wanted to thank everybody for listening. We've done 100 shows now, and that's just on this channel. I did about 46 or 48 shows on the other channel. So, done a lot of podcasts, but I enjoy it, like I've always said. We got some... I wanted to say, some people have said, well, why do you and Shawn do different podcasts of like your guys' stuff, like UFOs and alien abductions, and, now you want to do Charles Manson, you want to do these conspiracy theories on 9/11. Like, what's up with that? My thing with that is, for a long time, I wanted to do a podcast with each friend, like just talk about shit. And back in the day, I was going to call my podcast uh, My Celluloid Heart and the Kitchen Sink, because it was going to be about movies and about everything else. Because I knew that a lot of my friends, me and Sergio, when we talk about stuff, we don't just talk about movies and TV shows, talk about other things, and news and wacky stuff. So that's interesting. When I get with Shawn, I don't know. Him and I have a wide range of things that we're interested in. Me and Chip, we know we can talk video games and movies and, comic books. And Joe and I more talk movies and growing up with each other and all that stuff. But Shawn and I never really kind of, when we talk, we chit-chat about all kinds of stuff. Hey, did you hear in the news, blah, blah, blah? Yeah, I heard that. Did you hear this? Did you hear that? No, yes, no. So this time I said, you should listen to this podcast called Last Podcast on the Left. Anybody who hasn't listened to this podcast should really listen. I thoroughly enjoy it. It's called Last Podcast on the Left. It is about all kinds of different things. So not only do you have serial killers, but you have cults, you have conspiracy, 9/11 conspiracy, you have like Philadelphia experiment, they did one on that, just all kinds of different things. It's really interesting. Charles Manson stuff. So Shawn and I got him into that show, and now him and I listen to it, and we're like, oh my God, that's so good. Like, we should do that. Not the exact same thing, but we should do that kind of weird shit that interests us. So the interesting thing with that, like recently, I heard these thing called number stations. Heard about these. And they were around, I think the last one ended in 2002 or 2004, something like that. And they were for spies across, they were all over the place. And you had a certain frequency as a spy that you would click onto and get on your radio, your whatever kind of radio. And it was like a short wave, and it would tell you just codes, or it would say the same thing over and over again. 471235, 471235. Nobody knows what those mean, but it might say that repeating for a long time, for days. So they had that. They had other things. Some were just really interesting. And nobody knows what they're from, where they came from. So I told Shawn, I said we should do something on number stations or check it out or something. A friend of mine recently, she went to the Denver airport. I don't know if anybody's heard of, any of my listeners have heard of the Denver airport, but it is there's a bunch of conspiracies and stories there. The airport was built in like 95. It opened in 95. And it had all this. It was made by the Masons. It's got a big plaque, like a big concrete thing that says, has a Mason logo, all that stuff. But there was nothing, nobody can find out why and what this stuff means. They got artwork in there that's very interesting, like luggage that's open with a little gargoyle guy sticking out of it, making like with his mouth and his fingers in his mouth, and then there's one with his eyes, or he's sticking his tongue out, or whatever. It's just weird stuff, and it's all around there. When you go downstairs to get your luggage, it's almost like a tunnel. And they say it's kind of creepy. And the story is that the elite of billionaires, millionaires, whatever, probably not millionaires, more billionaires, have access to that. So if the end of the world comes and you're an elite member, you know that you can show up there, kind of like the Kingsman, the Kingsman Secret Service movie, where you just show up, you're like, I'm part of the club, they let you in, the end of the world, everybody's dying, and you're down there partying. So it was very interesting. So I was going to do a whole thing on this show just about the what do you call that? The airport, just about the Denver airport. And then I was like, well, no, because I started doing research, and a lot of it is you don't have the answer to it. And this may be with the number stations. There's no answer. So how do you really do a show other than what do you think it is? Well, I think it's this. I think it's that. With the Denver airport, it cost a lot of money to build, and it went over budget when they created it, when they built it. So I don't know. I mean, it takes up that whole thing, from what I've heard, from one of the things, and from this girl, that girl Andrea that I talked about on the podcast that I work with. She said that she went to the Denver airport and saw this weird shit. And there's murals of like army soldiers like decapitating heads, and there's Nazis, and then there's a little letter written by a boy in Auschwitz. Like, it's just weird stuff, like all that kind of weird stuff. Like, okay, so on one side you go, oh, it's artsy, that's cool, but on the other end you go, oh, is there something to this? So the other part of the conspiracy is it just people fucking with us, knowing that people are going to run around going, oh, I think it's something, when it's nothing, It's almost, Freud, oh, cigar means, you have penis envy. No, sometimes a cigar is a cigar, The story I tell is the Robert Rodriguez, when filming El Mariachi, and he was going around to colleges and talking about El Mariachi. And at the end of El Mariachi is this dog on the motorcycle, and the mariachi and the dog drive away on the motorcycle. So everybody's like, oh, is that dog showing that the mariachi was pure and he slowly became an animal? And, what does that dog mean? Like, this is what I think it means, this is what I think it means. And Robert Rodriguez was like, no, we were making a movie. My buddy had this dog. I was like, that's a cool dog. We should put him in a movie. And we did. So sometimes there's no rhyme or reason to anything. But there are interesting things and reasons why there's conspiracies. The moon landing, like I've said before, my dad one day goes, have you heard that the moon landing might be fake? I kind of was talking to a guy. It might be true. I might believe it. I said, Dad, come on. Like, really? Yeah. So I let him talk, and I say, okay, Dad, whatever. Go ahead. So I just realized I'm doing a YouTube video on here. I just realized I was looking at the microphone the whole time and not even the lens. So now everybody will go, why was that guy not looking at the, lens? But anyway, now I'm looking at the lens. But my point being that Shawn and I really like that we kind of found this niche. I like that Shawn and I found this thing of like, granted it's more work to do a show because we have to do some research, when before, me and Joe or me and Sergio or whatever just bullshit and bring some news stories and go, here's some weird news. But also I want to add something more. Like, I've always wanted it to be more the podcast. And so I'm trying to get more out of it, make more out of it if I could. But sometimes it's just, Joe will be on the next show. This is show 101. On show 102, Joe will be on it. And I got a whole bunch of shit to talk to Joe about. So that'll be good. And also, we both turned 46 and haven't talked to each other since. Done a podcast at least with each other since we turned 46. So get to talk about that and turning old, because I tell you, I cannot see certain things. Like I was looking at a beer menu earlier today. Excuse me. Me and the wife went out to eat, And I said, okay. And I'm looking, and she goes, well, what kind of beer do you want? And I'm looking, and I'm going, I can't. Is that 665 or is that, which one's 560? Are they both 665? And she has to look at it and go, yeah, they're 665. Now I could see that, but part of me just goes, why don't you look at it? So I'm becoming old. I don't have reading glasses. I'm going to end up carrying reading glasses around with me all the time. I can't believe that there's many things about becoming old, and I want to talk to Joe about it, but I'll tell you guys about it now, and then Joe and I'll talk about it in 2 weeks. Is the thing about getting old is I still feel like I'm young, and I remember I was talking to somebody recently. Oh, it was this younger guy, works with us, and he's 30. Now, I'm 16 years older than him, but I feel like I'm still 30 in my head. I still feel like I'm young. So I go to check on him and bring him his check or whatever, and he starts talking to me about the new Star Wars trailer, which looks amazing, by the way. The new Star Wars trailer was coming out on that Monday, and I said, "Oh yeah, I can't wait." And he goes, "Yeah," he said, "I want to buy the tickets. I hope the tickets are supposed to go available, but I don't know if they're going to be during the game when the tickets go available. It's going to be noon when I can buy my tickets." And I said, "I always do AMC. You can pre-pick your seats and you just go there. It's very simple." And then he said, so he started talking about the Justice League, and he starts talking, and we're talking about how there might be problems with the Justice League movie because of the reshoots, because of Zack Snyder's daughter committing suicide or dying. I think she committed suicide. And him just, not being in it and pulling out, and then having the new guy come in and redo it. And so the guy that did Avengers, I drawing blank on his name. Everybody's yelling right now at their either listening to the podcast or watching the YouTube video, going, "What the fuck? You don't know that it's that guy." I almost had it. I think there's a J in it. So anyway, so now it's driving me nuts. I want to say Judd Apatow. It's not Judd Apatow, but anyway. So we're talking about that, and and I'm talking about Zack Snyder, and he says, I tell him, I said, the thing that I didn't like about Man of Steel and about Batman vs. Superman was there was no theme. There was no Superman theme that made you like, yes, awesome. I said, there was John Williams did that Superman theme song that's amazing. Dun, 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 dun. Like just the start of it, and you're like, oh shit, here he comes. And then when they did Superman Returns, even though that was a horrible movie by a lot of people's standards, they put that theme in. He put that theme in. When the plane was getting ready to crash, Superman shows up, and that music starts to play, and you're like, shit, here he comes. And he comes, and he saves a plane, and he stops it in the baseball field. One of the best moments in a Superman movie is that. And in the Man of Steel, they never had like a theme, like a dun-dun, like something cool. And then in Batman v Superman, you never had this like a good theme like Superman or Batman, whatever. What you did have was Wonder Woman's ding, so that was fine because it worked for a theme song, but now that's her warrior hero song. So now, like, Superman needs, so I was just telling him, so my point, I was telling him this Superman movie is, I said, yeah, just there's something missing. And I'm telling him about the old Christopher Reeve Superman. And I said, how old are you? And he goes, I'm 30. And that made me realize, like, when I saw Return of the Jedi, at the end of Return of the Jedi, I remember just thinking, like, that's it. We're not getting any more. Like, it's 1983. All three movies are out. We're never getting another Star Wars. Like, that sucks. And he would never understand that because he grew up with then the prequels, then the, now these. So it's fine for him. But for me, it's like, no way. So it's just very just funny because I was talking about that. I start mentioning other things, and I realize this guy's young. Like, I'm 46 years old, and it just really hits you, but you still don't feel it. But then I'm sitting at a restaurant with my wife where we go to have these tacos, Blanco's tacos at, Biltmore. If you live here in Phoenix, you should definitely go. They're really good, buttery, yummy. Um, so we're sitting there, and she goes to use the restroom, which is downstairs, and then you come upstairs, and downstairs when you go there, there's a little room in there that they use that they rent out for parties, and it's got a little bar in there and stuff. So she comes up and she's like, and sits down. She's like, oh, you know what? If you wanted, when we have your 50th birthday party, we could celebrate it here and do it downstairs. And I said, wow, that'd be awesome. Then it hits me, in 4 years, that would be. Like, that's not that far off. Like, I've been doing this podcast for 2 years and maybe 2.5, I think, or something. Anyway, and it's like, oh my gosh. So it's just funny. It's mortality. It's the way you feel. You're only as old as you feel, which is true. So I feel young, so that's good. I know all of you are going, cry for me. My aunt has cancer and my kid was born with one leg. Well, I'm sorry, but, some people get old. Then what else happened? The trailer, Star Wars trailer, was awesome. We talked about that. I've been going to see movies, and going to see a lot. My wife and I always go every week and see one movie if there's something that we want to see. And now we have this Moviepass that, came out, long time ago, not a long time, whatever, months ago. There's this big thing about Moviepass, and you can go see a movie a day for $10 a month, and you can see a movie a day. And I said, wow, that's amazing. And I said, too good to be true, just like everybody else said. And shared it with my wife, watched some stuff on it. They said what they believe that is that this company is doing like a survey type thing of who goes to what movies. And then they go ahead and they're going to sell that to Warner Brothers, 20th Century Fox, whatever. And then they'll make their money back for only charging $10 for this movie ticket. So it's like a MasterCard, and it's I don't have my wallet on me, but it's like a MasterCard, and but it's red. It says Moviepass, so you can't use it for anything else. But basically, when you you have a list of movies on your little app on your phone, and so it's pretty cool. I really like it. It works out so nice. And I'm bringing it up now to show you if you're watching the YouTube video. And so you have a list like this of movies, of movie theaters, and then you can just scroll through, and then you pick what movie theater you want to see, what you want to see a movie at, and then all of a sudden it'll have all these movies. So when you get within 100 yards of the movie theater, then you can check in, which shows that you're there. Then you go inside. You use that card and you purchase a ticket like normal. So you pick your seat, they run the card, or you do it in one of those kiosk things. They run the card, your tickets come out. So that company, AMC or whoever, they don't do Harkins, but AMC gets they get their money. It's like $12.50 for a movie ticket. They get $12.50, but you're only paying $10 a month. So we're doing it. If the company goes bankrupt, oh well. We so far have got way more than our money back for the month. So that's awesome. Some movies that I saw that are great. Of course, Baby Driver was good. Wind River is really good. Wind River is one that I had not heard about. Saw a preview for, like a little preview, and I remember, I think, when my wife and I were seeing probably Nocturnal Animals or something, some artsy thing. And we were like, oh, what is this? And we said, that kind of looks good. And then we went and saw it, and I was like, holy shit. Like, that's a great movie. Like, that's probably the best movie of 2017 so far. And she agrees, but she likes Baby Driver is her number one. And then number two is Wind River. I think Wind River, number one, Baby Driver, number two. I like the soundtrack of Baby Driver was really good. We went and saw The Kingsman, The Golden Circle. That was good. That had a good soundtrack as well. Um, then what else did we see? It's a whole bunch. We've seen. We're gonna go see The Foreigner tomorrow, so that should be good. And other than that, it's like, just it's just cool. Like, we normally paid whatever amount of money, and now we're paying $10 a month to go to this movie. And you got to pay for your drinks and all that, but other than that, it's a great thing. So that's cool. The other thing is, for this, just forgive me, I'm randomly going through my thoughts because I didn't really know what to do a show on, but I said, well, I need to put one up on Thursday. Now, like, my idea, allow me to go off on a tangent for a second. Here I go. Is that my wife said, you're doing a show every week, which is what I was doing. Hang on, let me take a drink. She said, you're doing a show every week. I've talked about this before, but I want to get this down. So, doing a show every week, but you're kind of just doing it whenever people are available. You're just doing it. And you're not, you need to do quality over quantity. And I said, you know what, you're right. She goes, why don't you do it every 2 weeks? And I said, okay, because every week I was like, got to do a show. Let me call somebody. And they'd come over and we'd do a show. And sometimes, like we said, we make fun about, is Shawn would sit here and, so what's up? And Shawn would go, well, I had a shift bid for this thing, and put in for it, and I'm hoping for Saturday and Sunday, but I may not get it, so I don't know. And then this other person at work, they want Friday and Saturday. And it's like, okay, nobody cares about that are listening to this show. Like, they want to hear some funny stuff. Like, granted, most of the people that listen to the show are my friends. Maybe 2 or 3 of them. So it's like, well, we need to make it a little funner. That's another reason why Shawn and I found this thing. It's like, okay, that's great. We'll do that. We'll do Manson. We'll do Conspiracies. We'll do whatever you think, like whatever you want. So we did a history of, on that last 100th episode, I did sexy stories of aliens, and then the UFO, when the first sighting was. Because we were like, we only hear about it here in America. Like, all the sightings are from hillbillies and trailers that are seeing these aliens. So that's when I looked and found all the stuff from way back in the hieroglyphs and all that. So it's very interesting when you look at the hieroglyphs and there are these big giant aliens or whatever, these weird figures that aren't humanoid, they're something else, and kind of makes you think. But anyway, something else that I saw in the theater, to come back off my tangent, Close Encounters was re-released, 40th anniversary. Wow, that was amazing. It looked good, and it was just good to see that with a bunch of people. It was way cool. I tried to get Joe to go with me, but he could not. So that was awesome. What else? And then on the last show, you can see it here behind me on the YouTube video. Shawn and I talked about Chip doing I know on the podcast it does no good. We're talking about Chip's artwork. And so this part now is for the YouTube people that are watching it. So if you want to see, you can tune to YouTube. But this picture here is by Chip, and that one down there is by Chip. That was me when I had glasses and I kind of had a mullet. Yeah, I know, we all had mullets. And then there's one of me as Movie Man, because they used to call me Movie Man. Some still do, because they ask me questions. Joe and I know a lot of useless information about movies. And those two up there at the top of John Wayne and Lee Marvin, those are not Chip's drawings. Those are a guy that my dad met at the bar who really had pictures of celebrities. My dad said, what celebrity do you want? I said, see if he has Steve McQueen. Dad said, I checked. He had one of Steve McQueen, but it doesn't look too good. It's from like Thomas Crown Affair or something. I said, nah. Then he goes, or no, maybe he didn't have, and then I said, how about like Frank Sinatra or something, and Dad's like, I don't know, there's so many, maybe you should come and you pick, because I think you'll like it better. And I said, I don't know. I go, does he have John Wayne from like, what's The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance? And Dad said, let me check. And he goes, no, but he does have True Grit. He goes, he has a picture of Jeff Bridges from True Grit. So I said John Wayne. It's Jeff Bridges. So he's got a picture of Jeff Bridges from True Grit. I said, okay, I'll take that one. I said, that's cool. He goes, yeah, I really liked it. So he brought it. And then the other one is the Lee Marvin. He goes, Lee Marvin from Cat Ballou or The Horse to Lean Over. I go, it was an okay movie, but I wouldn't want that picture. But anyway, so he got me that. It's just funny. My dad goes, what do you want for your birthday? I tell him what pictures, and then he never gets it to me. And my dad never remembers stuff, but then about me or about what my days off are, when my birthday is, whatever. The other day, though, he called me and said on August 26th and said, hey, it's your birthday, right? I said, yeah, wow, you remembered. How'd you? And then I go, oh, yeah, you have Facebook, right? He goes, yeah, I'm on Facebook now. And it popped up and said, today's Philip's birthday. And so I called you to wish you happy birthday. I said, wow, because you always forget. And he's like, yeah, I know. And then he goes, hey, do you still want that poster of Muhammad Ali knocking out that guy, like that poster that you wanted? I go, him and Sonny Liston? He goes, yeah. I said, yeah, I like it because it was like first round, first minute, he knocked the guy out. That was when he became the champion. Like that was his first fight that he won, official fight. And I said, so yeah, I'd like that. But I said, I don't know if it goes with my stuff in my room. Like I have movies and then all the stuff, like I call it, like if my life were up on the wall, like that's what I wanted. So like these are like on this wall here, like I have all these movie posters, and then behind me I have all these figures and things, Star Wars toys, a Yoda that talks, some G.I. Joe figures and vehicles and some Pulp Fiction stuff, like all this cool little stuff. And then I have movie quotes on another poster because I love, movies and movie quotes. And then I have 2 posters of Marvel stuff. So a boxing now poster is going to look kind of out of place. But Muhammad Ali was the greatest and is the greatest. I watched a 6-hour documentary once, and that made me totally change my mind about how cool this guy is. Rest in peace, Muhammad Ali. Let me drink some beer for Muhammad Ali. Okay, so my point being, my wife says, do the quality over quantity. Said, okay. So now I'm doing the show. Now, whenever I think about the podcast, sometimes I think that it is just me and my friends bullshitting, which is fine. I enjoy that. But part of me thinks should be more to it. Like I said, just bring a little more. Like we should do something. Like there should be a theme. There should be something. When Sergio and I did it, we would have a topic. We would have observations. So we'd go to emails, observations, and then topics, and then end the show. I started with that, but it was very difficult to have everybody bring their stuff that I wanted them to bring. So now I usually am like, okay, we're going to talk about, I got some weird news. If you have some, bring some. But other than that, maybe we'll just figure it out, or I'll bring up some stuff. And they're like, okay. And the show carries itself that way, which is fine. But I don't think a lot of people, I always try to think, if I didn't know myself, if I didn't know Philip and Joe, Philip and Shawn, Philip and Sergio, Philip and Chip, if I didn't know these guys, would this be an interesting podcast or not? So, and some of you may have tuned out fucking 28 minutes ago. Who knows? But my point being is that, like I've always said, I enjoy doing it. So that's great because I love it. And for 2, it's our conversations are forever saved somewhere in the internet, or even, after I stop paying the $10 for this podcast a month, all those will go away. Like they'll just shut it down, it'll just go away. iTunes, that page will go away. So as long as I pay the $10 and Podbean sticks around, I've been saving pretty much, maybe the first couple I didn't save, then I realized I need to save them. So I've been saving every episode that we've been doing. So I have them all saved. So if something ever happens, I can always throw them back up on SoundCloud or somewhere else where I might go, which is another thing I've been thinking about, maybe changing from Podbean to go to SoundCloud, but that's a whole podcast minutia detail. Then my wife said, why don't you just do a show by yourself, like I'm doing right now? Do a show by yourself, and then when somebody is available, then you have them on and you do a little, hey, now today I have a co-host. And I said, yeah, that's good, but I said my stuff is always, all my news stories are funny news stories, and they're weird, and like I got one I'm going to read you about these 3,000 penises. And I said they're weird news stories and they're interesting. And if I just read them, like, yeah, they're funny if I read them and I say them and whatever. But I said, if somebody else is there, I said, like Joe just sometimes is so square in a way that when I tell a joke, when I tell him something that's totally out there, Joe gets uncomfortable and just his reaction is the greatest. And then we can just play off of that. So that's great. So that's why I told her that. I said it makes sense. I could do a show by myself. Like, that'd be no problem. But it'd be, I need to get more into doing the research for whatever. I need to, all this stuff. Something on a serious note and kind of interesting, just to totally jump from this track to another track that's totally just a news track that I found interesting and I wanted to share because it's very cool to me. But it's about Boka Horam. If you know them, they kidnapped like those 200 and something girls like a couple years ago. And they were going through this village in 2014, I think it was, or 2012. And this woman told her daughter to hide. She dug a trench for her daughter to hide in, covered it with like corrugated metal, gave the girl some food and like a bag to go to the bathroom in, stuff like that, and would feed the girl, and the girl had all her stuff there. The girl lived there for like 18 months in this little thing, or 11 months, something. It was a long time, and lived in here. And Boko Haram came, and the woman said they tortured her. They asked, where's your daughter? She said, I don't have a daughter. They said, because she also had some sons. And they said, no, we heard that you had a daughter. She said, no, I don't. And they tortured her and asked her questions and dislocated her shoulder. And she just stuck to the story, protecting her daughter. Her daughter was 11. And she's like, I don't have a daughter, because she didn't want the daughter to become a husband of one of these Boko Haram guys. So she says, no, I don't. And also during all this, she's also walking around town naked and mumbling to herself and wiping herself in feces and garbage so that people would think she's crazy. So when Boko Haram got there, they realized they don't want her or any of her children because they could all be crazy and carry that crazy gene. So they left her alone. They had killed her husband, but they left her alone. And that saved her. It saved the kids. Like, she could have been killed. They could have taken the kids. Saved the kids, saved her. Her daughter was safe in that little backyard area. When she finally told the military came to clean up the town and get rid of Boko Haram, when they got there, she told them about what happened. They kind of didn't believe her. She took the military back in the backyard. They saw the big trench where the daughter was staying, and they said, okay, we believe you now. So it was kind of a great story. It was on NPR. But I had heard about it through, Facebook and stuff. But it was very, very interesting and very cool for, like, there's some mothers, who won't do that. There's, some mothers just complain or yell at their kids for whatever. And if it came down to it, like, would you stick up and stand up for your kid? Like, now to jump to a funny note, like Joe said about his daughter, if she's 18 years old and she's in some bukkake scene in Japan, and he showed up there and walked in, and she had just passed out from choking on a bunch of guys' semen and fell down, then he would run up right away and just scoop out all the semen out of her mouth and give her mouth to mouth because she's his daughter and he loves her very much. So that's good parenting right there. Hopefully that will never happen. So I found that funny. The other thing was, hey, if you guys like what me and Shawn are doing on the show, send us a comment or on the Facebook page or on the YouTube page, or just shoot an email to itskindafunnypodcast@gmail.com. Let us know what you think. if you have any topic ideas that you want us to talk about, like, Slender Man, I think I heard is one, not from people, but I know about Slender Man. I know about what's that one, Mothman Prophecy type thing, the Mothman. I think it's the same kind of Slender Man type thing. The the moon landing conspiracy, all these conspiracies. If you want us to do any of that, if you don't want us to do that, and you just want us to do kind of silly shit, then that's fine too. Something else now, back to the show. Something else that was interesting. Joe and I just watched Mindhunter, just came out on Netflix. And I'd been waiting for it, and, David Fincher produced it, and it was like, oh my God, this is so great. And it's all these great serial killers. I mean, great. They're pieces of shit. But all these serial killers that I had heard about already. Richard Speck's in it. Edmund Kemper, who was in... it was on Sword and Scale. We also listened to that podcast, and that was really good. And then also there's Generation Y podcast, and they talk about serial killers, and my wife really likes that one. And last podcast on the left. If you do listen to that, be prepared. Like they're silly and they're goofy and they make fun of stuff. So it may be a serious crime that they're talking about. They understand it's a serious crime, but they bring some lightness and levity to it and maybe make jokes. So if you're really feel like that's kind of a piece of shit move to make fun of something like that, then, maybe it's not your podcast. Joe's still giving it a try to see if he likes it or not. My wife does not like it because they talk about the thing and then they go off somewhere else. But anyway, so I binge watched the whole thing yesterday. I was waiting for my day off. So the middle of the night, my wife fell asleep. We started to watch it. She fell asleep. I said, "You want me to continue?" She goes, "Go ahead." I went ahead and watched all, what are there, 10 episodes or something? Watched all the episodes, and I was like, wow, that's awesome. And then Joe wrote me today and said, well, what did you think? He said, he just finished it today, or, Tuesday. And I said, yeah. I said, I finished it this morning. And he goes, yeah. I said, I really liked it. He goes, yeah, me too. So we really liked it. It's about serial killers. It's also about the beginning of the BSU, which if you watch Criminal Minds, that's what they are, Behavioral Science Unit. And that's what this is, the beginning of, making a name for serial killers, what to call them, serial killers, kind of delving into their mind of what makes them do what they do. They also have the BTK killer in there, which is interesting. My mom, who was in Kansas, was telling me one of the last things she said to me was like, can you believe that they just caught this BTK killer? He's been around here so long. And I said, I really didn't know enough about him, but now that I'm more into serial killers, it's crazy what he did. And if you watch his courtroom stuff, it's insane. He's insane. They all are, but he's very insane. And then the 13 penises that I said I'd get to, which is coming up now. I'm bringing it up now. It's I'm bringing up the website. FBI seizes over 300. Did I say 300? 3,000 penises during raid at the morgue of an employee's home. So what was funny about this is that there were shelves everywhere filled with hundreds of glass jars. Each of them contained a penis floating in formalin. Agent Ramirez, the accused, rapidly confessed everything as soon as he was arrested. He explained in great detail how he had been cutting off dead men's genital organs and collecting them for more than 10 years. It took the FBI more than 7 hours to gather all the organs and other pieces of evidence that were found on the site. A total of 53 criminal charges have already been filed against Mr. Murray, and hundreds more could be filed over the next few days. An anonymous FBI source told WNTV4 that the number of charges could reach over 3,000. Dave Murray will remain in custody for the moment as a psychiatric evaluation has been ordered to determine if he's fit to stand trial. If he is considered fit, he should appear in court in October for the beginning of the procedures. So, yeah, it's crazy. He's 54-year-old Dave Murray, employee of the Harris County Morgue, being implicated in an organ trafficking network. And investigating several reports of missing organs and body parts, dozens of agents raided his residence this morning, hoping to find evidence of his involvement in the crimes. What they found on the site was a lot more disturbing than they were expecting, as the FBI spokesman described. And then that was what I just told you. So that was, this news story came out on, let me see if there's a date on here. But anyway, his court date should be in October, so that'll be great. So I'll share this on the Facebook page, but the guy looks, the thing with crazy people are, granted, maybe I look crazy. Who knows? Here's something else I noticed about being old. Look, I got this, I used to be able to pull on my cheeks, and I had all this extra skin, and now I just have, folds on my neck. This guy, like, if you saw him in the street, you might think that guy looks crazy. But, why doesn't the morgue go, granted, maybe he was caught at home and he was half asleep, and that's why he looks the way he looks. Because when you see his picture, it's very hysterical. But, wouldn't you go, I don't know, like, I think a lot of people work with some weird people, but they don't say anything because you can't really say much because you have no proof. And what if the guy doesn't do anything? That's why else Mindhunter is really good, because it asks those questions. Okay, are you guys the thought police? Kind of like, Minority Report did the same thing. Okay, you can't prosecute a guy just for thinking about killing his wife. But what you can do is when he has the gun and he's walking up to shoot his wife in the head, then the police show up and they bust the guy, in the future. So, like, they're like, what, you guys are just going to, profile. That's why it's called profiling. But you can't profile because a guy with a turban is boarding an airplane, and you can't assume that he has a bomb just because he's a Muslim. Did you hear me, Donald Trump? So, it's just interesting stuff like that. What's the other thing? What am I saying? Sorry about that. All of a sudden I had a problem with my internet over here. I'm trying to, not my internet, my website. I'm trying to get back up. Okay. Oh, so what I was going to say, I don't know if I said this in the beginning. Maybe not. But so my podcast is always been fun and always been weird. So that's why I thought with the weird stuff, like, it could still fit. But if now I change the name of the podcast to Conspiracy Theories Are Us, then, which it wouldn't be, that's a horrible name. But if I change it to that, then I have to change the theme song. And then maybe we can't be as funny. And we're not trying to be like last podcast on the left. We're just trying to find our little thing that Shawn and I can talk about. So I know some of you may have been, like I said, like, what is this thing with the aliens? What is this all about? Shawn wants to talk about chaos magic. I have no idea what it is, but I'm going to look it up sometime. So who knows? But when Joe's on, I guarantee it will be, wow, I'm a poet. I didn't know it. I got some emails. I have that. What else do I have? Yeah. I got some emails, some observations, some a guy that wrote me a text, all this stuff, all this fun stuff. And I have what I did, me and my friend Joe did Joe and I did a radio show, recorded it on cassette tape, and it was called 66.6 HELL. It was like a radio station, hey, welcome to 66.6 HELL. And then before that, though, my friend Dave and I, Dave Meyer, we would do a fake radio show. I don't know where we came up with the idea. I think it was probably 98 KPD. I know it was 98 KPD. And we said we should do a fake radio show, and we'll call it 69 You Suck, because 69 and you're either sucking or you're sucking. So either person is sucking. So US, UK. So he was like, oh, yeah, that's great. It bothered me because it wasn't a KDKB. It wasn't a K or whatever, like I think they're supposed to be. Anyway, so I was like, okay, so we did that. So Dave and I would do these shows, and we just did either skits or did just weird shit, talked about stuff, made jokes, played some music, but more just made fun of stuff, and did whatever. And then a friend of ours, then Joe was hearing that, and Joe said, I listen to your guys' tapes. I think there should be more music involved. You guys should play more music. And I go, well, really? And then I think he said we should do a radio show. It might have been me saying, well, we could do one also if you want to do a different one. So he said, okay, because I love the sound of my own voice. Just kidding. I really don't. And we said, okay. So we went and we did this show. We got his tape player. He had a cassette. He had a dual cassette player, like, with a radio, it played albums, records, for those of you who don't know, like big giant, made of wax. And so we would play that, and then it was old school. We had the microphone hanging down, dangling in front of the speakers to play the music through the tape player, and then that would pick it up on the microphone, and that would record it onto the tape. And then also we had the microphone that we would just walk up to the same microphone, inch it up a little bit, have it hanging on a little eye hook or something. And then we'd go up to it and I'd talk, hey, hello, and welcome to, 66.6 HELL. Hey, today we got, we got Axl Rose today in the studio. Hey, man, what the fuck, man? Oh, motherfucker, fuck this, fuck that. And I'm like, hey, man, you can't cuss on the radio. And he's like, fuck you, man, fuck that. I go, are you going to play a song or what? And we had feedback, and it was funny. And then he goes, slash my head open. And then, that was it. And Joe and I cracked up because we thought that was the funniest shit. And I had just kind of made it up as I went. Like, I had no idea what was going to go on. But I was like, oh, I guess somebody will come in. And Guns N' Roses was famous at the time. I said, oh, it'll be Axl Rose. So I brought in Axl Rose. And then did the voice, and then did my voice. Hey, what are you doing? Fuck you, man. And I was like, okay. So Joe and I were just like, oh my God, that's great. Then we'd pause it, and then I'd say, okay, here's, Stairway, here's a Love in an Elevator. And then we'd play that, and then we'd make fun of the song or talk about the song and record all these things. So I have all those tapes saved that I had. I think I accidentally threw them away, which drives me nuts. Joe could care less, but that's part of when I was 18, like that's, Joe and I recorded those. And to me, they were funny. Like, I liked listening to them. Joe was kind of like, we had his wife listen to him when he first got with his wife, and she was just like, okay, guys. Like, it's young boys being stupid. But Dave and I would just do those tapes for ourselves, or maybe we'd lend them to people to listen to. And this was while we were in high school for Dave and I. That's where it started. And then when we got out of high school, we said, our friend had left, and she went, and we even did some parody songs. Me and Dave did, and we sent them to the radio station because there was a contest. We didn't win. We sent them a whole a greatest hits. We sent them both sides had all these songs on it. We had I Want to Wear a Sock instead of I Want to Rock. I Want a Sock. We had For Those Who Fought Iraq, We Salute You, for that first Iraq war. Anyway, we had all this stuff. So then our friend, when we graduate and everything, a friend of ours left to go to U of A. And she was kind of depressed and kind of didn't have a lot of friends over there and was just kind of sad. And one day we were like, hey, we called her, or she called us something, and we were like, hey, we're going to go on a road trip. We're thinking of coming to see you. She was like, oh my God, that'd be awesome. So we came and saw her. We went to old Tucson stuff. And she said, wow, you guys are like stress relievers. Like, you guys are stress busters. So then Dave and I also around this time, 1989 or 90, 1990 is when we graduated. But there was a movie in '89 called Air America. And so I said, oh my God, we're like Air Flav, like Phil and Dave, like let's be Air Flav. So he's like, okay. So we started to write a story about it. It didn't go anywhere. But not that it was, but we were just writing like kind of a story of Phil and Dave because we were just silly and crazy and funny. Then I said, so then she was like, you guys are stress busters. So then we made these cards like stress busters, and we gave it to her and she thought that was cool. We were like, call us anytime you have enough stress or something and you want us to come and relieve you, make you feel better. So she was like, cool. And then we went and we were TPing people's, we TP'd this friend's house. And, but we TP'd it once. And then the next time we just, I don't know why we did this. We spent hours making like 50 paper airplanes that could really fly, like not just fake old paper airplanes. Made some good paper airplanes, threw them in his yard. So when he walked out for school in the morning, there were 50 paper airplanes in his yard. And we were like, oh, it's hilarious. He's going to have to pick them up. So the next day when we saw him at school, hey, man, what happened? He's like, I knew it was you guys. He goes, no, I just had the neighborhood kids were walking by to go to their school. And I said, hey, kids want some airplanes? And they just came in and grabbed them. And we were like, fuck, we thought that you'd have to clean them up. So anyway, so then that girl, being as she liked hanging out with us because we were funny, we said we should do a tape just for her. And it'll be funny. And it'll be, just for Tia. We'll do this thing. So he's like, okay. So we sat down. We kind of had some stuff written down, but not much. So we did this whole thing. So then Facebook comes around. So years later, we lost all the other tapes. Greatest hits tape. Or no, I have the greatest hits tape. Lost all the other tapes. We gave her, we had lost that too. Gave her the greatest hits tape and the tape that we sent to her. Then Facebook comes along. We become friends. I mean, I'm like, hey, Tia, remember me? Of course she does. We talk. And then when I started this podcast, I said, hey, let me ask you, do you still have any of those tapes that we did? And she was like, yeah, I do. She said, do you want to, would you like me to send it? I said, yes, please. So she sent me both tapes of Dave and I doing that show for her. And then the other one of the greatest hits. So it's him and I doing a show on both sides. So I don't know how long a side, maybe an hour or something. An hour, maybe each, maybe 2 hours. But however long, maybe we did it, whatever. Hour and a half, 2 hour show. Then on the greatest hits is both sides as well. So I have those tapes. So I got them. Then I went and found a tape player at an antique store. No, found it at a Bookman's. And for $10, and I transcribed it to digital. So now I have those digitally. So then I recorded. So then I listened to them, and I took out all the stuff that I took out all the music. I still have it. I still have the hard copy. I still have the copy with the music. Like I have that. So because there was some good music on there from the late '80s, early '90s, and then, but I took out all the funny stuff with us, or all the stuff that we thought was funny at the time. So there's maybe 36 minutes of stuff on there of me and Dave doing like movies that are coming out. Like we just make up movies, and do like trailers for them, like coming to a theater near you. The first one blew you through the back of the theater. The next one will just blow you, stuff like that. And then it was like, baby's mama at 4, whatever. But this was in the 90s, so it was like we did Predator 3 or something like that. So anyway, we did all these things, and it was silly, and so anyway, I have that. So I'm going to go through that with Joe, and so I think that'll be fun. Plus, I'm going to do the other part of the show with Joe, like I said, so I think it'll be fun. So he's going to be available. And we'll probably do, a big show that I'll cut in half and put up a 2-parter. So I think it'll be fun. Well, I know it'll be fun. I always have fun with Joe. I always have fun with Shawn. I have fun with all the guys that come over to do the podcast. I want to do one with my wife, but she will not. And also, sometime, maybe this year, I will get my dad to sit down across from me, or we'll meet somewhere and I'll have him do the podcast because I think that'll be very fun. So, for those of you who don't know what my dad looks like, well, I was going to bring up a picture here, but I don't know how fast my phone will work. But it's for the YouTube audience, of course, to see what my dad looks like. So here is what my dad looks like right there. So he looks like Gandalf the Grey. Is that what he's called? That's why Joe made fun of him. He's a wizard. I'm gonna probably get him a wizard hat. Maybe it is Thanksgiving. It's Halloween. Speaking of, Sergio and Yvette got me that Nightmare on Elm Street thing behind me. It's pretty cool. Also, usually around in October, I always play the Orson Welles War of the Worlds, which I love as a radio play. I love it because of all the controversy that came out of it, all the stuff of him playing that and everybody freaking out. And if you listen to it like you don't know what's going on, part of that could freak you out. Like, it's really cool. And it's just amazing. So I usually play every year. I put on October and I throw it up there. So maybe I'll throw it up. Maybe I'll just wait if it's between our shows. Maybe I'll just throw it up for you guys. It's free domain, but it's great. So I guess that's it. I've been going for almost an hour now, all by myself. I was all by myself. No one was looking. I was thinking of you. That was a little bit of Green Day for you. You're welcome. All right. So, like I said, go to Facebook, please. Like, subscribe, comment on our Facebook page. It's kind of funny. Facebook.com/It's Kind of Funny Podcast. Send us an email at It's Kind of Funny Podcast at gmail.com. No email is too weird. No email, tell us how you hate us or how you love us or everything in between. Send topic ideas, whatever you want us to talk about. Who's your favorite co-host on the show? Who you might want to see on the show more? I had that redneck Trump supporter on here, which was me. But the other thing is also on Twitter. It's on Twitter under It's Kind of a Funny Pod, or kind of a funny pod. You can look up me at Phil the Movie Man at Twitter, and or me on Facebook under Philip Duke II on Facebook. So thank you for listening, and on Podbean, of course, you can comment on there as well, if that's where you get the show, or on iTunes. But subscribe, like, whatever, comment. So thank you very much, and have a wonderful week.